Have you heard of this term Zillennial? Have you heard of this? Really? Have you? Let me tell you something. I've come across a new term called the Zillennial. It's basically a generation within a generation. Wow, generation within a generation. What does that mean? A Zillennial is basically a person who's born between 1992 and 2000. You're all millennials, but this particular group of people between the years 1992 and 2000 are Zillennials. And there are multiple explanations for what a Zillennial is and why this term has come. So let me break it down for you. We are in a generation that itself has multiple generation gaps. Do you have a brother or an elder sibling who's say 8 years elder to you or probably even 5 years younger to you? Do you feel there's a generation gap between you and them? I'm sure you do. If you're born in 1991 and if your sibling is born in 1980s, you have a generation gap. If your sibling is born in 1991 and you're born in 1996, there's also a generation gap. Guess why? Because Zillennials happen to be the only people who can relate to the older millennials as well as the next generation, which is called Gen Z. And why is that so important for us to understand? Because guess what? Every single company, every single organization, every single industry has understood it so well that they target this particular group of people with something so simple, so effective, and yet very, very, very productive in terms of money. And you know what that is? Any guesses? Any guesses? It's called nostalgia. Repeat, nostalgia. Have you ever seen a movie which is made up of Power Rangers? That is nostalgia. Have you ever come across a movie where Hrithik Roshan is dancing? It's nostalgia for everyone. And it works effectively well with this particular generation. Now let me give you a scientific explanation of this generation. Zillennials were kids when 9/11 happened. And post 9/11, a lot of things changed in the whole world as we know it. And more than that, this generation has seen certain two major events that have unfolded right in front of them. Number one, the 2008 financial crisis, and to the icing of the cake, the 2020 pandemic. These two were really problematic for this particular group of people. Why? Because they were either starting their careers or they were scaling their careers when both these events happened. The reason why I wanted to make this video today and I want to talk about Zillennials is because millennials are, as I've said this multiple times on this channel, are people born between the years 1981 and 1996, 81 and 96. Whereas within our own generation, there's so much of generation gap between fellow millennials. I cannot relate to a person who was, say, born in 1996. Sometimes I find them a little too much, probably. And then I cannot even relate to a person who was born in 1981 because I feel sometimes they're a little too old. And guess what? I'm actually a millennial. I'm not even a Zillennial because I was born in 1991. And people who were born in 92 are supposed to be Zillennials. It's spelled with a Z or Z or whatever you want to call it, because English language is very funny and people have learned the alphabet Z or Z in different ways. Zillennials, this is what you guys are known for. You are known to be puppets for nostalgia. Guess why? Because you grew up playing on a Nokia 110 phone and you also saw the advent of the smartphone. You grew up when there was no OTT and you were watching television, color television to be precise. Now you binge watch on multiple smart products like TV, cell phone, tablet, it could be anything. You grew up in a generation where jobs were like, okay, you either become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, because you can relate to that. And you can also relate to the whole tech industry booming. Can you say the same thing to a person who was born post 2000s? Hell, they were gifted with internet from they were born, but yet you're all millennials. I just wanted to make this video just to make everyone aware that there might be a generation gap between people of the same generation as well. Whether you're an 80s kid or a 90s kid or an early 2000s kid, you all have your own issues, you all have your own problems, and you all have your own opportunities to deal with. Because I see young people today doing multiple things because they have multiple opportunities only because they have a lot of information available to them at a very young age. And I also see people who were born between 90s and 2000s who had a lot of information, yet they were very clueless because they were rubbed off by the previous generation who were focused on getting a degree, going to college and doing the right things as per society standards. And you also see 80s born kids who are doing extremely well, but not in India, but maybe they've just gone off to America or UK and they're doing extremely well for themselves. So this generation is actually a very convoluted and a very complex generation because it has different mindsets, different perspectives, and this video is made for all fellow Zillennials because unfortunately I'm not a Zillennial, and I wish everyone to just go with the flow. Whether you're a Zillennial, millennial or whatever you are, you need to understand that there is a nostalgia element. So my only advice or my 2 cents to everyone is when you're purchasing a product, be a little mindful and understand why they are targeting you the way they are targeting to you. If they're using nostalgia to allure you and sell you something, don't fall for it so easily. Just a random video today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please share, like, subscribe, To all the fellow Zillennials and also to all the Millennials, this is me, Rohit Kotpad, signing off with another video from the Indian Millennials channel. Until next time, take care. See you.